After the highly successful Telltale's Walking Dead game released in 2012, a sequel to it was inevitable.
You knew it, I knew it, we all knew it. Let's talk about it.
Oh, you thought I was gonna let you all wait for another 2 months to see me cover the next entry of this iconic zombie franchise? Well, hold my beer on that. The Walking Dead Season 2 came out roughly 1 year after the final episode of the first season, and to nobody's surprise, there was a lot of hype behind it. After the tragic loss of our favorite character Lee Everett, it was time to put ourselves in the shoes of Clementine, the little girl that we have been defending and connected with throughout the entirety of the first season.
Look, I'm gonna be straight about this, you guys. Even though I have great memories with this game back in 2014, this is one of the best examples of careful what you wish for. And I barely thought about it as the years went by. Based on my first new experience with this game in 2025, it's sad for me to say that The Walking Dead Season 2 is worse than I remember.
What do you mean worse?
Well, of course, let's first talk about the beginnings of it.
During pre-production of the second season, Telltale has been debating whether to make a complete new storyline with a new group of survivors or add a new protector for Clementine. Because they didn't want to reuse the same ideas from season 1, even though they proceed to do so anyways, they eventually agreed to continue Clementine's story and have her as the main playable character. The directors of season 1 were meant to return for the second season and serve as the main writers again. While they both wrote some ideas and concepts for the second season, their involvement was pretty small because they eventually left the project and Telltale for good to focus on founding their own indie studio, which ended up being Campo Santo. It is unclear what their true motivation was to not continue the story of the character they created, but I can assume it has to do with Telltale's history of poor management within the studio, like crunch, multiple projects in development, meeting deadlines, and the studio CEO Kevin Brunner being so difficult to work with. This shit will continue on and on until it was too late for a recovery. Due to these particular events, Season 2 had to go through multiple rewrites and vision changes. This is considered the darkest season of the whole franchise, but it was meant to be even darker than what we actually got. We'll get into that in a second. This game features a lot of cut content and ideas, but I wanna mention the ones that have zero connections to the final script. Season 2 originally had 2 locations that they wanted to add in Clementine's journey: a nuclear power plant and a zoo where Clementine would encounter a tiger. Why they cut the nuclear station and which episode it will appear on is unknown, but they did say they cut the zoo and the tiger idea because they thought it would be unrealistic to place something like that in a Walking Dead story. That's funny because Ezekiel's pet tiger, Shiva, made its appearance in the Walking Dead comic book issue 118 that was released 6 days before the release of Season 2.
Unfortunately, there isn't much to cover about the original script of Season 2 because most of it is vague and Telltale didn't share much information of it to the public. The full story from the original directors remains a mystery to this day. Now before we begin, I want to give a shout out to the YouTube channel InColdBlood. This guy managed to cover a lot of the original stories, ideas, and cut content from the whole Walking Dead franchise. Make sure you subscribe to his channel because he deserves it. If you're watching this in cold blood, just want to let you know, you're awesome. Without further ado, from great beginnings to wasted potential, here's my retrospection on The Walking Dead Season 2.
I think everyone can agree that the best thing about this game is Clementine as the main protagonist. This is the same little girl that we raised in the last game, and we get to see how much she transitions from an innocent little soul to a hardcore survivor. You can still have her show kindness to people around her, or have her become sassy like this.
Keep your voice down.
But you just yelled at me.
Shut up.
Even some of the influence from Lee has stuck with her according to this moment.
Oh shit.
That's why I always say shit at Herschel's barn scene.
Shit.
That was a swear.
Having an 11-year-old girl be the protagonist for an entire story-driven game is something you don't see every day, and I appreciate this type of creativity. Melissa Hutchison is at her best with her range of voice acting, making Clementine sound older than before.
This area, I have to speak in my throat. I can't really explain it.
I don't think there's anything else to say about Clementine in this season, except some unfortunate cons about her portrayal. But before we get into that, I wanna bring up another major highlight of the season. I didn't really talk about the graphics of the first season, because while they were good at that time, they weren't impressive enough for me to mention them in my last video. But I can finally talk about them for this season, because the Telltale artists took the whole art style to a whole new level. Given that this series is based on a comic book series with the same name, this entire game feels like a comic book come to life, with all the colors, the shades, and the contrast. In my opinion, this game looks much better than the other entries in the franchise. This is why I'm playing the original version, not the definitive edition one. Another thing that I forgot to mention in my season 1 video is that all the body and facial animations from the characters in this franchise were done with the developers' hands. They didn't use any sort of mocap technology, and the result is outstanding. Sure, it does look outdated in the modern age due to them being reused all the time, but these animations aged much better than some modern Bethesda games, and something like Life is Strange. I never understood the result of this game. I mean, Life is Strange was made in Unreal Engine 3 with the use of mocap, yet the facial expressions are somehow worse than a 3-year-old game at the time. Come on now. Let's now talk about some characters in the game. Like I mentioned in the last video, Omin and Krista were the silhouettes in the post-credit scene of season 1. I didn't really talk too much about these characters in the last video because there wasn't anything really fascinating to mention about them. The only thing I could say is that there were a lot of theories and hints that Krista was pregnant in season 1.
What's this on the floor?
It's a sonogram.
And what do you know? The rumors have been proven true at the start of season 2. Since these two didn't have much to do in season 1, I thought it would be a perfect time to connect with them even further in the second season, with Clem as the main character.
Until... Taking lessons from the Game of Thrones show, Telltale just had to subvert our expectations, but without caring about logic. Why the hell did Omid not jump on her immediately when he was getting close? And why the hell did he and Krista leave Clem all by herself, with both of them going to the men's bathroom? So many red flags at the start of the season, and you can only tell it's gonna get much worse.
16 months go by and we finally get to see Clem grown up and more mature, sitting next to Krista who doesn't have her baby anymore. What happened to it is unknown. The game never bothers to explain its disappearance, and we can only assume for the worst. Apparently, Clementine has stuck with Krista way longer than she did with Lee, which only lasted 3 months. Yet by the end of not the season, but the actual franchise, Krista didn't seem to have a much influence on her character, because in the next few minutes, Krista is attacked by some scavengers, and no matter what you do in this situation, saving or letting her get stabbed, Krista is never, and I mean never, seen again. This is the very last time we see her alive, leaving her fate completely undetermined. In my humble opinion, I don't think she survived because you hear her screams as Clementine runs away, and then a gunshot occurs. Her scream stops right after that noise. According to Jake Rarkin, Krista was supposed to have a bigger role in this season, and she was gonna leave by the end of the game. This may be just a speculation, but based on cut concepts, it seems like she was gonna be a new protector for Clementine. But both of them would have had a complicated relationship due to Omid's death. By the end of season 2, Krista was gonna grow to love Clementine like a child she failed to have in the first place.
That sounds like a great idea on paper, and Telltale had the perfect opportunity to deliver such concept. But they said, nope, we can't do that, because we are lazy. Let's pull an NER free on these characters instead. Kill Omid and leave Krista out of the plot with 0 resolutions.
Bring brilliant!
So with Krista out of the picture as well, Clementine is being pursued by this guy Winston, who is infamously known for saying, "Jesus, are you fucking kidding me? 3 goddamn times!"
Are you fucking kidding me? Jesus, are you fucking kidding me? Jesus, are you fucking kidding me?
After falling into a river, Clem is all alone again. She stumbles upon a dog named Sam, and it will lead Clem to his owner's camp. This whole scene is just about exploring the consequences of a scavenger attack and finding something to eat. Wait, is that Stacy from Dead Rising 2? No matter what you do here, Sam will end up biting Clem on her left arm. She's alone again, but with a wound this time, and she ends up getting rescued by a new group of survivors, known as the Cabin Group. This is the group that Clem will be a part of for the rest of the season. Luke, Pete, Nick, Carlos, Arvin, Rebecca, and Sarah. Let me just tell you this right now. Everyone in this frame is dead.
They just don't know it yet.
Let's discuss each character in a specific order. First we have Luke. He is the main supporting character of this season, and he is played by Scott Porter, who is known for playing the Robins in the DC gaming universe, and Harry Osborn in Marvel Spider-Man 1. He is considered lead 2.0 among the fanbase, and I'ma have to disagree with that, because Luke has a very inconsistent brain and opinions. To give a few examples, when he finds out Clem is bit thinking it was a walker bite, he becomes completely distrustful towards her, and even says,
"Well, you better be fine, because I ain't carrying you anymore with that bite on your arm."
Yet when you meet up with the others, all of a sudden he's defensive about her situation.
Now what the hell is wrong with you people? Okay, she's just scared.
In episode 3, he suggests to hold up at House Hardware and wait for an opening, because most members of the group got beat up. Yet he says if they go with the plan, he would have recommended leaving some folks behind.
Okay, look. Maybe I'm just playing devil's advocate here, but damn it, if y'all are serious about going tonight, then we're gonna have to start talking about maybe leaving some folks behind.
Selfish much? And finally, episode 4 was the final nail in the coffin for his character. As you can see, he's completely aware of Rebecca's baby coming, yet instead of doing his job of securing the perimeter to prevent walkers, he chose to have a sleep time with Jane. And when I click this option, this is where I beat my head to a wall.
Rebecca's having the baby.
Now?
What? What do you mean now? Telltale, did you forget the key to telling a compelling story? Continuity is not a polite suggestion.
Next up is Pete. He is like the nicest of all the adults in this group, and while he didn't trust her fully, he did have confidence that Clem was telling the truth about her bite. Unfortunately, his role in the story is pretty small because he gets beaten by the end of episode 1, and even if you stick with him, there is no saving because he refuses to cut off his leg and you can't bring him with you to say goodbye to his nephew. Speaking of which, his name is Nick, and just like Kenny, this guy is hot-headed and he kinda wears very similar clothes. This man was heavily against keeping Clementine around because he experienced his own mother getting attacked by another beaten survivor and obviously didn't want something like this to happen again. Despite his attitude, he apologizes and wants to do better in the future. Nick plays a very significant role in the first 2 episodes, but after that, he becomes a ghost in the following episodes. We'll talk about that later. The 4th and 5th members of the group are Alvin and Rebecca, the married couple. Alvin is the most neutral of the group, and I gotta be honest, do we really know anything about him? According to Bonnie, he killed this one guy named George prior to the events of the story, and that's it. There isn't much information about that event, and it was just added for the sake of adding a reason for a guy to hold a grudge against Alvin. Rebecca is his wife, and at first, she was the asshole of the group, having a huge grudge against Clementine, even after she was proven to be bitten by a dog in episode 1. But after that, she becomes nice to her all of a sudden. I like it to an extent, but it feels too out of nowhere. Not gonna lie though, Rebecca and her unborn baby to me are just plot devices that only serve as a motivation for Clementine to keep fighting. Becca does have her moments, but not enough for me to care so much about her and her baby. Something tells me Telltale made her to be a replacement for Krista, and I'm not okay with that. Anyways, the next member is Carlos, and I think he's the worst of the bunch for multiple reasons. I actually never realized how much I hated this character until now, and I'm gonna tell you why in a second. First off, him being a doctor is confusing as hell, because for some fucking reason, he can't tell the difference between a human bite and a dog bite.
So, what do you think? Was it a lurker?
A bite like that could be anything.
What do you mean, anything? Let me tell you this. When I was in 2nd grade, I was bitten by a dog right here on this leg. And even I could tell my teeth wouldn't have the same size as that bite.
What the hell is the excuse for this bullshit except lazy story progression? You know what? That's actually not what I hate about the character, but the fact that he's such a terrible father. Instead of actually letting his own daughter grow up to fight against the nature of the apocalypse, he keeps sheltering her all the time. Even worse, when you learn that both of them have already experienced the tyranny of their former community leader.
Real smug son of a bitch. But a smart man.
No, he's not. Carlos is basically what if Lee wasn't motivated by Chuck to teach Clem how to survive.
And finally, let's talk about his daughter, Sarah. In my opinion, Sarah is the most misunderstood character of this game, and she gets a lot of undeserved hate online. She is acting like a normal kid for a normal world, and it's because, like I said, Carlos was heavily protective over her and kept her sheltered all the time. She was nice to Clem all the time, and all she wanted was to have someone of her age to chat with. If I were you, I would never blame her for this attitude when her father is the one who started it in the first place. She literally acted the same way as Clem in the very first episode of season 1. If there's one way I can describe Sarah, she's a symbol of innocence that wasn't born to fail, but she was failed by everyone around her. I have more things to say about her, but for now, I wanna discuss the main conflict of the whole season, and that is William Bill Carver. This guy is the recurring antagonist, being the very main reason why a lot of characters died in this season. He's intimidating, ruthless, subtle, and the most impactful. Carver was played by Michael Madsen, a very popular Hollywood actor who has also done other significant voice roles in gaming, like Tony Cipriani in GTA 3 and Doubt in the Dishonored franchise.
They're a mystery, and I can't allow that.
Just as I was about to start recording for this review, the news popped in to tell us that Michael Madsen sadly passed away at just 67. Rest in peace.
Carver went through multiple alterations during development, like instead of this current model, he was supposed to use choice model, evident by his presence in the Next Time On segment and the thumbnail slide for episode 2. The only reason for this original idea is because Michael Madsen wasn't actually hired at that time when they created the character, and Carver's role used to be smaller than what we got in the final script. When Michael Madsen came in, they had to make a different model that would be more suitable for his voice, and change this one into his own character, thus creating Troy, who is Carver's sidekick. Let's just say the beta model for Carver is bizarre to say the least. This is how Carver looks like in the final product, and this is how he looked in the beta version.
This is not intimidating. He looks like a Looney Tunes character.
Unfortunately, despite being the main antagonist of the season, a great one per se, he only appears in just 2 episodes, episode 2 and 3. Episode 3 is the one where his character got to shine the most, until the very last few minutes of it. I do think his death was satisfying to watch, and there was nothing wrong with how he was killed. But the main issue is that he was killed too soon in this season, and the story started losing direction after this. Carver was very close to being the best antagonist of the franchise, but I just can't consider it in the end.
We were on the verge of greatness. We were this close.
Also, did you know that he's possessing the Colt Python revolver? That's the very same model that Rick uses in the TV show. Now let's talk about what many consider the best part of the season. The cabin group confronts some survivors at a ski lodge up on a mountain, and when Clem gets to the front, a reunion occurs.
Kenny.
Wait, you know this guy? Clementine?
I'll take that as a yes.
With Alive Inside playing in the background, I still get emotional to see Clem reunited with an old friend of us, even to this day. With all that being said though, I have some interesting things to say about Kenny in this season.
Don't get me wrong, I love Kenny and I was happy to see him alive after season 1. But something about his return always bugged me, and Telltale was just too lazy to actually explain how he escaped Savannah. This is what he says.
For some reason, I tried to save that fucking shitbird Ben. Then it turned into a damn cluster. Couldn't help the kid, but I got out. Long story short, I got lucky. Real lucky.
And that's it. Nothing about this sentence is an answer to how he avoided all these walkers in the alleyway. I don't see any open windows, seeing that they are all boarded up. And if he did manage to go past the walkers on the left side, how come Krista didn't notice his escape? The only way for this to make more sense is to have Kenny escape through this dark building after saving Krista, because he has more ways to avoid walkers. It's a bummer that this moment occurs only if you let Ben die in episode 4.
That was literally the best Telltale could do. I got lucky. Real lucky.
Kenny is basically a show stealer of this season. It was amazing to finally see the chemistry between him and Clementine, considering that they barely demonstrated their relationship in the first season, and a lot of his quotes in this season always put a smile on my face.
Bill? This whole time it's Carver, Carver, Carver. Now he's fucking Bill? I'm gonna punch the first son of a bitch I see. Then I'm gonna take his gun and use it to shoot the next son of a bitch I see.
With all that aside, I believe that bringing Kenny back for this season made things worse. The game kinda shifted a lot of focus on his character, rather than developing the other main characters simultaneously. I was just getting to grow on some season 2 characters, like Luke, Nick, Sarah and Walter to name a few. But once Kenny appeared on the screen, everyone else just took a lot of backseat and it made me upset. To make matters worse, most of Kenny's arc in this season is just repeated ideas from season 1. Sarita, his new girlfriend, is just Katja and Duck all over again. The truck that he fixes in episode 5 is the new RV, and reaching Wellington is the same as reaching Savannah. So they are basically sacrificing the new characters for a repeated character arc.
I don't know what the fuck you're saying, but I know it's bullshit.
Episode 3 is where his character shines the most. But for the rest of the season, the game kinda treats him like shit, like he's about to become a villain or something. And speaking of which, according to his voice actor Gavin Hammond at OMG Con 2015, Kenny was planned to be the main antagonist of the season, serving as a community leader filled by the cabin group. So he was primarily the very first idea of Carver's character, and it seems like Telltale rejected it immediately based on the lack of concept art.
Despite my nitpicks and issues with this character in season 2, this concept would have made things much worse, and I honestly can't see the execution of it. I'm glad Telltale ditched this idea and never thought of it again in the future seasons.
Now let's get down to business with this season's blunders. I think the biggest problem with season 2 is that Clementine suffers from the main character syndrome. Despite being just 11 years old, almost every adult character in this game relies on her to complete certain objectives, instead of just doing it themselves naturally. Let me demonstrate it with a montage.
You check out these ones. See if there's anything on them that'll tell us who they were.
Clementine, can you please watch Sarah?
That man said he had food in the station.
Mind checking it out?
Why don't you go look?
I'm going to sit with Beck here for a minute.
Just talk to the rest of them. They trust you. See what you can find out.
Hey, Clem, help me find something to get these off. Anything sharp that could cut these. You gotta take a look around. Listen, Clem, I need you to meet me here tomorrow about this time. Because I need you to get me one of those radios, okay? Do you think you can do that? Just one of those walkie-talkies.
She can just climb up from there. Then, just drop into one of the skylights over the stockroom.
There are shelves and stuff for you to land on, so you probably won't fall to your death.
Great. Clem, I was thinking now that you're here, maybe you could go talk to him?
See if you can find something to distract them.
You know, if somebody was small enough, they could maybe squeeze through that gap there. Hey, Clem, go over and see if you can change the bandages on Kenny's wound.
You need to help.
No!
Clem,
You're gonna fall through.
Go help
No,
him.
Clem, do
Clem,
not.
just go back for him. You're light.
You better talk some sense into him. For his sake.
Telltale literally made everyone in this game look dumber and more irresponsible than a child.
Why is it always me?
Do I even need to mention the most SMH moment of the whole game?
Does anyone know how to do this?
I can do it.
Okay, we'll watch your back. Nick, scan the trees with me. It's too dark.
Wow. Like, what does the red button have to say about this?
That was easy.
Remember in Season 1 when you get to have multiple options to create conversations with certain characters during hub areas? For some reason, Season 2 doesn't have that at all, and you only get a single conversation with the characters when you talk with them in free roam. Just what the hell gives? That was easily one of the best things about Season 1. You get to learn more about the characters around you, and Season 2 just won't let me do that anymore. The closest thing to such feature is this moment in episode 4, but it's designed in a very strange way. Just have a look.
Have you seen any walkers around?
I haven't seen any, but they're always around. How can I help? If you can find anything to help me get this open faster, that'd be great. Take a look around.
Do you think it'll be warmer in there? It's so cold out here.
It'll keep the wind chill off at least. Better than nothing.
Remember the DLC that you played in Season 1, 400 Days? Let me tell you this, you didn't miss shit if you skip this one and jump straight into Season 2, because most of the references and character appearances in this season didn't change anything, and some don't even make sense. First off, what was the point of having Gil's pit stop as the first location of this season? And why does it look different than it did in the DLC? Like, where is this restroom located? When I look at the place in 400 Days, I can't figure out what part of the station this landmark is placed in. At the end of episode 1, when you approach the river massacre along with Pete and Nick, one of the corpses that you encounter is Roman. Yes, that is in fact Roman from Shell's story in the DLC. Why is he here exactly? And what purpose does it serve for the lore of this franchise? He appears as a dead body in this homicide no matter what decision you made in Shell's story. Remember that stupid woman Bonnie, the least interesting protagonist of the bunch who joins Tavia no matter what decision you made in her story? Yeah, she gets to be part of the main cast in the second game, and that was a complete mistake. Worst part is, her entire backstory serves no purpose in Season 2. Nothing about the 400 Days DLC affects her character whatsoever. The only consequences that the DLC provides for this season are just useless cameos. If you manage to gather everyone, or at least some of them by the end of the DLC, they will appear in episode 3, being part of Carver's community, and the only thing they do is appear on the screen for a moment, say a few things, and just dip. That's it! No advantage to the story in any sense. Barney doesn't even say anything about them. What the hell did Telltale mean by these tweets? Being treated as just extras is the last thing players expected from these characters. Tavia did get some screen time, but she's not affected by the DLC, and the only thing we learn about her character in this episode is that she has terrible peripheral vision. Just look at how many times she didn't spot Clem when she should have.
See, it's hard not to call them prisoners.
Anyway, I'm looking at it now. I don't think we have what we need.
Jesus, really?
You can't be smoking back here.
This week
only.
Also, did you know that Tavia's group got attacked by walkers? If you pay attention at the beginning of episode 4, you can see walkers on the rooftop, and these idiots don't even notice them from behind. We can only assume the worst.
If this wasn't enough to convince you that 400 Days is the most pointless DLC in gaming ever, I don't know what to tell you anymore. There are no good reasons to ever replay this useless piece of content.
The next topic is about the characters that either don't serve much purpose or are just being a complete disgrace to the story. First, we have the Scavengers. These guys are the main reason Clem got separated from Krista, and that's all they did. Winston dies while trying to chase Clem in the woods, Ralph is never seen again after the conflict, and Clem meets Victor again after Homicide River. You have the option to either have him drink water or reject it. And guess what? Even if you give him water, he will never provide you information about Krista's whereabouts, and Clem just forgets about him.
This is starting to sound like a bad comic book plot.
It's even worse with the fact that according to season 3 choice selection, he dies afterwards. So all in all, this choice is meaningless, and the scene overall serves no point to the story. Next we have Walter and Matthew, the gay couple that has their own arc in episode 2. These two were just made to force an unnecessary arc for Nick's character, and one of them becoming a victim of Carver's tyranny. While Walter does share his own personality and development throughout the episode, these two fellas didn't do much to change Clem and Kenny forever. Walter can get Nick killed or spared, but it doesn't matter for either of these two, because he dies anyway by Carver's hands. Next up is Bonnie. The reason why I saved her for this topic is because she's one of the worst written characters in the whole franchise. Without a single good motivation, she stabs everyone she connected with in the back. She chose to join a strange community over her friends in the DLC. She sells Clem and the others out to Carver. She betrays her community and her friends who came along. And she intends to leave Clem and AJ with no supplies by living with this fucking guy who almost got her killed at the shootout. She doesn't even care to save Clementine from her wound at the end of the season, even if she got your support. Also, she gave us this ugly jacket in episode 3 and blames Clem if you did what Luke asked you to do to save his life.
That's why I said she was the worst part of the 400 Days DLC. With all the examples I gave you, she is in fact selfish, a victim player, and a backstabber. I will never listen to anyone who even tries to justify her actions, because there's no justice to any of that.
The next worst character is Mike. He joins you when you escape Carver's camp and serves as the strongest member of the group, seeing that he can carry 2 water barrels without feeling tired at all.
You're telling me your arms ain't tired?
Nope. I could do this all day.
Mike was actually meant to be Ralph from the Scavenger Trio, with his skull on his cheek being the result of the gunshot that you hear when Clem runs away. He was supposed to have the arc of winning Clementine's trust after what he did to Krista, but Telltale changed that in the end and wrote Mike as his own character. I was starting to like Mike by episode 4, showing his loyalty and usefulness. But when episode 5 came in, Telltale did a 180 with his character, simply by having him defend this guy and betray the group for him, despite the fact that he almost died because of him. Are you fucking kidding me? Once I witnessed this moment, I wanted to kill him for siding with a troublemaker over a little girl and a baby. And fun fact, you could have done it in the vanilla version of episode 5 on PS3.
Here we go.
But Telltale foolishly patched this out, and Mike gets no resolution. Now we have Arvo, arguably the most forced character written for this season. This guy and his Russian friends literally came out of nowhere in episode 4. They have zero relevance to Carver's shenanigans and the mess Clem's group was currently in. He carries some medicine and he's trying to hide it for some weird reason.
If that medicine's for your sister, why are you hiding it in the garbage?
I need to keep it safe.
Safe? From what? His safe place is literally a day away from this location. Oh, I forgot. It's Telltale.
But guess what? He will still blame you for stealing from him. In the same episode, no less.
I told them you are the ones who robbed me. They think it's funny that you're just a little girl.
Robbed?
And they want you and your friends to put down the guns so we can take your things.
He says this no matter what decision you made. He doesn't even sound like he's trying to pin the blame on someone else.
From what I can tell, Telltale was forcing us to sympathize with Arvo and have Kenny look like the bad guy in episode 5.
Love Kenny or not, he was right about Arvo. Why would you sympathize with this shithead when he literally tried to rob and kill my group for doing absolutely nothing?
Worst part is, Arvo shoots an unarmed Clementine for no good reason. No matter how much you're kind and defend him from Kenny, he will always end up shooting her, and he gets away with it.
Keep in mind, Telltale kills all the characters with better potential in the most unrealistic way, but keeps this shithead alive without a single resolution.
And finally, we have Jane. I do not like this character at all. For some reason, Telltale insisted on shifting focus on her character in the last 2 episodes. She's literally Molly from season 1, but more selfish, manipulative, and hypocritical. She thinks that connecting with people is dangerous, and some individuals with lower strength are better off being dead and suffering, rather than teaching them to be stronger. Let me just tell you this woman put herself before the group on so many occasions. First, she offered Luke to sleep with her, keeping him from doing his job of preventing Walker presence, as a result of this danger and getting Sarah killed. Second, she threatened a disabled guy to steal his stuff and had him walk away without his protection, which she drops in milliseconds, resulting in this. She even denies it.
You stay out of this! You're the reason these fuckers came after us in the first place!
Don't try and pin this on me.
Bitch.
And thirdly, she manipulated Clementine to kill Kenny by leaving a baby alone inside of a frozen car in the middle of a blizzard.
Look, it doesn't matter if you hate Kenny or not. It is not a secret that Jane wanted Clem to kill someone. That someone wasn't even endangering her directly. If she didn't want her to kill, why did she not tell Kenny the truth when she was near death? Even Kenny says,
Hey, listen, I didn't want that to happen either. I thought she killed Alvy, Clem, and at any point she could have stopped what was happening by saying he was fine. She wanted a fight.
I almost let this one slip, but I think the most useless and most annoying character of this entire season is Reggie. This guy is played by the comedian actor
Kumail Nanjiani.
and this has to be one of the worst guest appearances in video games for so many reasons. I've seen people online liking this guy and I don't understand why, because he worshipped the hell out of Carver and tried to justify his evil actions. Riddle me this, does anyone actually believe his arm was cut off because he was beaten? He helped the cabin group escape this place, and according to Carver's attitude and tyranny, he is not the type that will give Reggie a slap on the wrist. Based on his body language alone, he is a coward and a liar, and I simply cannot stand him. I always have my Clem give him this death stare, and if anything, Sarah did us a favor by indirectly convincing Carver to get rid of his ass. And guess what? Every character forgets about him after his death. He literally served no purpose in this season. Now let's move on to the worst parts of the season. I already talked about Pete, so let's talk about the other characters with determinant deaths. First one being Alvin. You can either have him get shot by Carver in episode 2 or have him sacrifice himself to give Clem time to escape in episode 3. The second death sounds like a great idea on paper, and this is honestly one of the least problematic story flaws. However, it's still not perfect and I chose to have him die by Carver's hands for multiple reasons. It's a painless exit, Alvin is MIA for the whole next episode, being stuck in Carver's office to get tortured by him, and his final fight is strange to me. He says,
I ain't going anywhere, but you are. Go on. I mean to get some payback.
No!
His revenge is to kill this one man that didn't do anything to him before this? Also, if you click this option, this happens.
Come on, we have to go.
Telltale, what is the point of this information when everyone knew he would die in a matter of seconds? That's not the only time though. It happens with Pete and Sarita as well. Do you still believe in this shit?
Also need to point out that when he says,
You take care of my girls, I get the feeling it's gonna be a girl.
it's meaningless because AJ ends up being a boy anyways. The second determinant character is Nick, and he takes a huge backseat if you save him in episode 2. Throughout episode 3, he only has a few lines of dialogue and doesn't provide anything valuable to the story. It makes no sense when he had a bigger role in the previous 2 episodes. Episode 4 is where they just shat on his character entirely because he dies off screen by turning into a walker being stuck on a fence. He didn't even have a single voice line in this entire episode.
There is one interesting issue about his character that I don't think anyone has ever brought up, and I noticed it during my replay. Maybe I'll be the first one to say, and it might not be a big deal. But here's the thing.
Nick and Carver did not have a single face-to-face interaction throughout the entire season. Think about it. Carver interacted with every single member of the cabin group. Luke, Carlos, Rebecca, Alvin, and even Sarah. All of them, except Nick. Hell, Carver can't even acknowledge Pete's existence if you pick this option. At the end of episode 2, when he captures everyone, he's not even confused about the absence of Nick's mother. Because according to this conversation in episode 1, Nick's mother was part of the group and died before Clementine showed up. So why did Carver and even Reggie never ask about Nick's mother's whereabouts? Why is he acting like Nick doesn't even exist in the story? The closest thing we could get for such interaction is this scene.
Jesus Christ! Stop!
Stop him! Somebody stop him!
Troy, do
Let me
something!
go!
Stop! Clementine! Help me! You have to do this, Bill!
Nick begs Carver to stop beating Kenny, but of course, Carver ignores him. In conclusion, Nick is basically a ghost to Carver, and he doesn't even mention him or notice his corpse if you had him killed in episode 2.
Now you have another reason to despise Nick's role after episode 2. You're welcome.
The next character death that everyone hates so much is Luke. This moron literally caused his own doom because he didn't have the patience to just stay behind the wall until his target was running out of ammo. I even had my Clem tell him to stay in cover, but he didn't listen.
Just stay down! You're gonna get your head blown off!
We can't just sit here.
You should have stayed down!
Yeah, I know.
Then, when you get to the lake, he gets pinned down by the ice break, and you are presented with 2 options. Either cover for Luke as he says, or help him. And surprise to no one at this point, Luke dies either way, because getting near him literally caused the ice to break, whether it was Clem or Bonnie. I already mentioned why Bonnie is so garbage. If you cover for Luke, Bonnie blames Clem for his death, even though she was the one who broke the ice in the first place.
It must be nice being a pretty little girl. No one ever expects you to do a damn thing. You and I both know you had a chance to save Luke. You and I both know what happened back there.
Shut your stinking mouth, bitch!
If you hate this character as much as I do, you can have her die by simply and sadly just not breaking the ice above Luke. You know, this incident could have easily been avoided if they used this land in the background to walk on. Just like Krista, despite being a main character in this entire season, Luke didn't seem to be much of an influence to Clementine, because she never mentions him ever again after season 2. I saved one particular character mainly for this topic, and I'm talking about Sarah. Believe it or not, Sarah was my favorite character of this season, and I was extremely disappointed with how much Telltale treated her poorly, especially in her last episode. Sarah is someone that I relate with a lot, and I wish she lived until the end along with Clementine, because she's almost the same age as Clem, and it would have been a great opportunity for her to be her teacher of becoming a survivor. In episode 2, you can literally have Clem teach her how to use a gun, which is the best callback to season 1, and I can never say no to this one. Having the little sister teach the big sister the basics of survival is a very unique concept in my opinion, and I can't think of any games that pull it off unless you give me examples in the comments. When I witnessed this moment, I wanted Clem and Sarah to be the last survivors of this story, and I actually prefer this kind of ending over the ones that we got. These two had the potential to be best friends, partners surviving together in this world. Unfortunately, I lost a lot of respect for Telltale when I played episode 4 Amid the Ruins, which is arguably one of the worst episodes in Telltale's history, simply because all the choices you make in this one result in the very same outcome, and one of them is Sarah's fate. I saved her from the trailer, and not even 15 minutes later, she was forced to die anyway. What? Why did the writers have her stay on the deck instead of helping Rebecca deliver the baby? And how the hell did she end up under the rubble when she was clearly supposed to be on top of it?
The more I think about this, the more I realize how much of a garbage company Telltale was.
To prove their incompetence even more, Amid the Ruins was written by J.T. Perry, the very same writer behind the entire Outlast franchise. And guess what? He wasn't even a Telltale employee when he wrote this. It is possible that he may have not been in charge of all the decisions made for this episode. But still, why the hell did Telltale put this guy in charge when he wasn't part of the whole season 2 development?
It was at this moment when I realized Telltale played favors instead of telling a coherent story. Oh, you were kind to this character? Taught her how to shoot a gun and saved her from the walkers? Well, fuck you! You don't get what you want! My game, my rules! It seems like I spent too much time talking about this game. And with that, I only have 2 topics to discuss.
We shall now talk about probably my favorite thing about this whole season, and it's the content that Telltale left in the cutting room. I can't really bring them all up because the video is already too long, and like I said, if you want to learn more about them, you should definitely check out the InColdBlood channel. For this category, I'm going to talk about what is possibly the darkest ending that almost happened for The Walking Dead Season 2.
It is unclear if this was gonna be the only ending available for Season 2, but this is how it will turned out. Brace yourselves, because the following discussion might give you nightmares for days.
In episode 5, instead of being called No Going Back, the name for this episode was supposed to be Better to Sleep. And if you think about it, that is a very disturbing title. In case you don't follow, it means that it's better for you to die instead of living in this hopeless world. What's even more disturbing is the original banner for this episode. This is how it was supposed to look. So instead of this walker laying on the ground, you see in the distance the silhouette of Clementine holding AJ on her left arm, walking towards a city in the background. With this in the title, this is Nightmare Fuel. Here's how the ending was going to play out. The conflict between Kenny and Jane was gonna end with both of them dying, then Clementine finds AJ in the abandoned car, and she walks away all alone. Afterwards, she gets lost in another snow blizzard, struggling from hypothermia, with AJ constantly crying and becoming a dead weight for her. Clem couldn't keep walking any further, therefore she sat down on the ground, suffering even more. She sees a light in the distance, and you are presented with probably the most agonizing choices you could ever imagine for this franchise. The first one is abandon AJ and walk towards the light, and the second one is stay with him and watch both Clem and AJ go to sleep. Whichever you choose, the season will end tragically. Now you understand where the title was coming from. According to this ending alone, Clementine was supposed to die at the end of the season no matter what, because Telltale at first didn't think they would make new seasons after this one. Now if we think about it, had they gone with this approach overall, then the later games wouldn't have happened, because AJ plays a big role in those.
This ending is very, very harsh. I can totally understand if you're happy for this to be cut in the final product. But with that being said, Part of me wishes this wasn't cut. It doesn't have to be the only ending of the game. In fact, it would have been better if they kept it and just made it non-canon to the story. I just want to see the real execution of it because, like it or not, this ending works for the Walking Dead universe. It's a morally harsh reality, and it proves how dangerous it is to carry a baby with you all the time, let alone trying your best to keep it alive. This type of conclusion is way more realistic than any of the endings we got in the final game.
With all the dark elements out of the way, let's wrap this up and talk about the finale of Season 2. It features 4 unique endings. You either stay with Kenny, stay in Wellington, stay with Jane and return to House Hardware, or end up alone. This finale with all these different endings used to be heavily discussed among the fanbase back then, and you can easily see why. Unfortunately, as the franchise progressed, these don't mean anything anymore. Don't get me wrong, I still feel emotion seeing Kenny sacrificing his position to let Clem and AJ stay in Wellington, and smiling when Clementine demonstrates her savageness if you choose to turn this family away. But if you already played the next seasons by now, you can already tell what my point is. Like it or not, the alone ending is the definitive way of concluding Season 2, and here's how I will put it. When Kenny tries to kill Jane, I put him out of his misery, because this is a great conclusion to his character, and it's very reminiscent of Lee's death from Season 1. When Clem learns that AJ is alive, I always have her get pissed at Jane for doing this.
Upset. You're fucking crazy. How could you do this?
I had to do it, Clem. You saw how he reacted. I had to show you what he was capable of.
So you put AJ in danger and got my friend killed just to prove a point?
Afterwards, I chose to have Clem leave Jane, because it was time for Clem to be the one calling the shots, and teach her a lesson for pulling a selfish stunt like this.
I did this for you. I can't do this alone. Okay? Is that what you want to hear?
Notice how she didn't even say sorry when Clem walked away. She does care, but not in the sense that I want.
9 days go by, Clem ends up in the middle of nowhere, and she notices a herd up ahead. With this on her way, she covers herself and AJ in walker blood to blend in. The game ends with Clementine walking through this herd of walkers as the screen goes black.
Staying with Kenny used to be my favorite ending of this season, but things have changed now. So that was The Walking Dead Season 2. That was rough.
It is unfortunate for me to say The Walking Dead Season 2 is not that great of a game, and a sequel to its predecessor. It does have its moments, and Clementine did grow as a badass throughout. But all of that is completely overshadowed by wasted potential, some cut ideas, false gameplay formula, multiple stories told at the same time, and a player favoritism. The characters that I cared for died in a cheap way despite my efforts, some of them don't get any sort of resolutions, the story becomes directionless after episode 2, there aren't any certain decisions that I myself wanted to make with my Clementine, and Telltale keeps being the worst with their lack of attention to detail and choices that don't fucking matter. Most of the story is dark for the sake of being dark, rather than adding depth to it. I can't believe I used to forgive Telltale and their rushed development on this season 10 years ago. I don't hate this game, but it's hard for me to not think about how much potential he had to be better than what it currently is, let alone what the original script was like. In my personal opinion, exploring the original ideas of this season is way more fun than playing the game itself. Also, episode 1 remains the best of the season for me, because the plot is more simple and straightforward. It shows Clementine struggling with survival and trust among strangers, it doesn't rely on her being the hero of certain events, and it has that feel of loneliness that gives me a little bit of that survival horror sentiment. After that, the season ranges from good to a mysterious disaster.
Now you understand why I refuse to let nostalgia take over my head. Some things you love don't age the same way as you do.
If you love the first season of The Walking Dead, don't expect season 2 to have the exact same quality. You do get to see Clementine growing up, but you will be more frustrated than satisfied. The only way for you to avoid disappointment on this game is to buy it when it drops on sale.
There were a lot of red flags that I foolishly dismissed when I first played this. And with games of different genres that I played, it's not gonna get much better after this. Hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next video. Farewell.